Well, we've been talking about the death of magazines, but vintage cars, paintings and wine, investors are also looking for something that will gain value with age. But take a look at those old hardbacks that are gathering dust on your bookshelf, because they might be a little treasure trove. As CCTV's Paul Barber has been leafing through a few classics.
When F. Scott Fitzgerald's classic, The Great Gatsby, was first published in 1925, a copy cost just $2.
When Scott Fitzgerald went to the publisher, Scribbens, they had laid out a whole series of different dust jackets for him to choose. And he saw this one, which had been designed by an artist, and fell in love with it, because the eyes looked right through him. And he actually then wrote the dust jacket into the story.
Today, a first edition copy of The Great Gatsby could be worth over $360,000. It tops an index of 30 modern classics that British dealer Stanley Gibbons Investments has compiled. They say a first edition of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit is worth nearly $100,000, while James Bond's novel Casino Royale by Ian Fleming could fetch up to $35,000. At $32,000, Hemingway's In Our Time isn't far behind.
Normally, a publishing house has taken a bit of a punt on an author, so the first print run tends to be quite small. And therefore, if they go on to have success, that creates a rarity.
So even for collectors without any interest in reading, first edition books are an increasingly viable investment option. Stanley Gibbons says the value of these tomes has grown nearly 400% over the past decade. Goldsborough Books in central London specialises in first editions signed by the author. In 2013, it was the only bookshop in the world to have signed copies of a novel entitled The Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith, which it turned out was actually a pen name for Harry Potter creator J.K. Rowling.
When it was announced that it was J.K. Rowling, those prices went from £1,699 to £3,500 immediately.
The owners of Goldsborough Books say novels can become more desirable if a film version of them is produced. And they agree good first editions are like vintage wine and can appreciate in value with age.
Others, like Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, weren't collectible immediately at publication, but now you'd be hard-pressed to find a really nice set of first editions.
The rise of e-books had writers and lovers of the printed page worried that this was a dying medium. But research by professional services firm Deloitte estimates 80% of all books sold last year were published on paper. So curling up with a good book may not only be nourishment for the mind, the right one might also boost your bank balance. Paul Barber, CCTV.